Elias had always believed that his city, Ardenfall, was completely ordinary. A place of tall buildings, noisy traffic, crowded markets, and people who were always in a hurry. Nothing magical, nothing mysterious, nothing extraordinary. But everything changed on the night he discovered the door in the subway tunnel. It happened after school. Elias was on the old Green Line train, heading home. Rain hit the windows hard, and most passengers were asleep or exhausted after a long day. When the train suddenly stopped between stations, the lights flickered and went out for a moment. People groaned, but Elias didn't panic. He loved strange moments like this. They made him feel alive, like something unexpected was about to happen. The lights came back, but the train didn't move. The driver announced that they were waiting for a signal. Everyone sighed again. Elias leaned back, bored, until he noticed something unusual outside the window. A faint light glowed in the tunnel. Not like a lamp, more like a glimmering pulse, soft and rhythmic, coming from deep inside a maintenance corridor. Elias blinked. Was it his imagination? He looked around. No one else seemed to notice. He pressed his face to the glass. The light pulsed again. Curiosity burned inside him. When the door opened for emergency ventilation, Elias didn't think. He just acted. He slipped out silently, making sure the tired passengers weren't paying attention. The moment his feet touched the cold concrete floor of the tunnel, he felt a strange shiver run through his spine. The maintenance corridor was narrow, dusty, and silent. Old pipes ran along the walls. The pulsing light came from the very end where a rusty metal door stood slightly open, as if inviting him in. Elias approached slowly, his heartbeat matching the glowing rhythm. He pushed the door wider and froze. Behind the door was a huge stone staircase, old enough to belong to another century. It led down into what looked like an ancient underground hall. Elias felt a wave of cold air rise from the darkness below. But what shocked him most was the symbol carved in the first step. The spiral of Varos. The same symbol he had seen only in history books about lost civilizations. "What is this?" he whispered. Suddenly, a voice came from behind him. "You shouldn't be here." Elias spun around. A girl his age stood in the corridor, wearing a dark coat and holding a lantern that glowed the same strange light he had seen earlier. Her eyes looked like she knew things, dangerous things. "Who are you?" Elias asked. She didn't answer immediately. Instead, she walked closer and shut the metal door tightly behind her. "My name is Lyra," she said quietly. "And if you really want to know what lies beneath this city, then you must follow me. But once you step down those stairs, you cannot return to your old life." Elias swallowed hard. He looked at the dark staircase, then back at Lyra. "Why me?" he asked. "Because the shadows down there have started moving again, and they've been waiting for someone like you." Elias felt his heart race. Fear, excitement, uncertainty all at once. He took a deep breath, tightened his hands into fists, and stepped down onto the first stone stair. And the moment he did, the spiral symbol glowed bright green under his foot, and the underground hall awakened. Elias descended the ancient staircase, step by step, each footfall echoing through the hollow underground space. The glow from the spiral symbol faded behind him, but another light, Lyra's lantern, continued to guide the way. Its greenish hue cast shifting patterns on the stone walls, making the carved symbols appear as though they were moving. The air grew colder with every step. Elias could hear the distant drip of water and the faint humming of something alive, something ancient. He tightened his jaw, forcing himself to stay calm. At the bottom of the staircase, the passage opened into an enormous chamber. Elias stopped, breathless. He had never seen anything like it. Huge stone pillars rose from the ground to a ceiling so high it disappeared into darkness. Strange runes spiraled around each pillar like vines. In the center of the chamber stood a circular platform covered in carvings and cracked lines that glowed with weak green light. "This is the awakening chamber," Lyra said softly, stepping beside him. Awakening?" Elias repeated, unsure if he wanted to know what exactly was supposed to awaken. Lyra nodded. This place belonged to the Varos people. They built an entire civilization beneath Ardenfall thousands of years ago. But something happened, something that forced them to seal these halls and leave. Elias looked around, fascinated. Why did they leave? Lyra hesitated before answering. Because the shadows began to move. Elias blinked. Shadows? You mean like monsters? They aren't monsters in the way you think, Lyra replied. They're ancient fragments of energy, leftover power from the Varos experiments. They lost control of it, and it consumed them. What remains is dangerous. It tries to latch on to living beings, using them to return to the surface. Elias felt a chill crawl up his back. But why did the map in history books say that the Varos civilization disappeared without explanation? Because the truth was buried. The city council has known about these tunnels for years. They hide it to avoid panic. Elias stared at her. And you? How do you know all this? Lyra lowered her lantern. The green glow illuminated her face, her expression serious, her eyes filled with a kind of deep sadness. She said, "My family have protected the underground halls for generations. We keep watch. And now you're part of it." Elias shook his head. "What do you mean? I'm not some protector." Lyra stepped closer, her voice steady. "The stairs reacted to you. The spiral of Varos glowed for you. That only happens when the halls choose someone. It means you're connected to this place." Elias opened his mouth, but no words came out. He felt too overwhelmed to speak. Why him? What made him special? He was just a normal student, nothing extraordinary. Suddenly, a rumbling sound echoed through the chamber. The carved lines on the central platform brightened. Dust fell from the ceiling. The air vibrated with energy. "What's happening?" Elias asked, stepping back. "The chamber is wakening," Lyra said urgently. "Your presence activated it." Before Elias could react, the center of the platform split open, revealing a narrow fissure. A cold wind surged out, carrying whispers, soft at first, then louder, like voices arguing in a language Elias couldn't understand. The light dimmed. Shadows stretched across the floor. Elias watched, horrified, as the darkness began gathering in one place, swirling like a storm trying to take shape. Lyra grabbed his wrist. "Don't step back. Whatever you do, do not show fear. The shadows feed on it." Elias felt his chest tighten. His instinct screamed at him to run, but he forced himself to stay still. The swirling shadows formed a humanoid silhouette, flickering, unstable, but unmistakably alive. It stepped toward them. Lyra lifted the lantern. Its green light pushed the shadow back slightly, but not fully. This is only a scout, a fragment of a much bigger presence. If the main shadow awakens, the entire city could be in danger. Elias swallowed hard. "What do we do?" Lyra pointed to a small stone pedestal near the platform. "There's a sealing crystal there. We need it to close the fissure. Once sealed, this chamber won't open again for decades." Elias turned toward the pedestal, but before he could take a step, the shadow lunged. It moved fast, like smoke chasing wind, reaching for Elias's chest. Lyra shouted, "Elias, go!" Elias sprinted toward the pedestal, his heart pounding. The shadow chased him, its form stretching across the floor like tar. Elias reached the pedestal and grabbed the crystal, a small, circular stone with a spiral carved into it. The moment he touched it, the crystal glowed bright white. The shadow recoiled. Lyra ran to Elias. "Raise it! Hold it out toward the fissure!" Elias lifted the crystal high. Light burst from it like a wave, slamming into the shadow. The creature screamed, its voice sharp and echoing before dissolving into black dust. The fissure began to close. The entire chamber shook violently. The ceiling cracked. Dust fell everywhere. "Elias, run!" They sprinted toward the staircase as the platform collapsed behind them. The chamber roared like a beast, awakening and dying at the same time. Elias and Lyra ran up the stairs breathlessly, the ground trembling beneath them. Just as they reached the metal door, the last echo of the chamber disappeared. Elias slammed the door shut. Silence. Both of them stood panting in the tunnel, covered in dust. Lyra looked at him with a mixture of fear and admiration. "You did it," she whispered. "But this was only the first part. The shadows are awakening, and they won't stop with one chamber." Elias stared into the dark tunnel, clutching the crystal. His life above the city was gone. A new life, dangerous, mysterious, and filled with secrets, had just begun. The following night was supposed to be peaceful. After the chaos of the awakening chamber, Elias returned home with dust in his hair, bruises on his arms, and a crystal that refused to stop glowing under his pillow. But peace was impossible now. Not after everything he'd seen. Not with something ancient watching him from beneath the city. He lay awake until almost 3 a.m., staring at the ceiling, replaying the voices from the fissure, the whispers, the distorted language, the way the shadow tried to reach for his chest as if it recognized him. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw the swirling darkness. By morning, Elias knew one thing for certain. He had to meet Lyra again. A city that feels different. Ardenfall felt wrong. People move normally on the streets. Kids running to school, vendors opening their shops, taxis honking. But there was an invisible pressure in the air, like the city was holding its breath. As Elias walked to the station where he first saw the glowing light, he noticed shadows stretching slightly longer than they should. Street lamps flickered even in daylight. The wind carried a strange low humming sound. And once, only for a second, he thought he saw a dark shape slip between two buildings. He blinked hard. Nothing. But he couldn't shake the feeling that something was following him. Back to the underground. At the station, the Green Line train roared past. Elias waited until the platform emptied, then made his way toward a locked maintenance gate. Before he could knock, a shadow near the corner shifted. Lyra stepped out, wearing the same black coat and holding her lantern, now dim with its light flickering weakly. "You came," she said, relieved. "I didn't exactly have a choice," Elias replied, patting the crystal in his pocket. "Things are strange today." Lyra nodded. "They will get worse. Last night, the ceiling caused a ripple through the entire underground system. My family detected 3 more disturbances." Elias swallowed. 3 more chambers? Not just chambers. Her eyes darkened. Echo points. Elias frowned. "What are echo points?" "They're places where the shadows gather after losing a source, like wounded animals returning to familiar ground." She lowered her voice. "And one of them is close, very close." Elias felt the coldness rise through his chest. "Where?" Lyra pointed behind him, toward the dark tunnel extending deeper into the station. Elias turned. A faint rumble echoed through the darkness. Then a second, then a third. Like footsteps made of air. "We need to move," Lyra said urgently, "before it finds us." The Circle of Echoes. They walked fast through a maze of maintenance halls, old service rooms, and abandoned tracks. Dust floated everywhere, and the temperature dropped the farther they went. Finally, Lyra stopped before a rusted double door covered in spiral symbols. "This is it," she whispered, "the Circle of Echoes." Elias felt a chill. The air around the door felt heavy, like pressure pushing inward. "What's inside?" he asked quietly. "A recorder. Not a machine, not a person. A living memory created by the Varos to store warnings." Elias raised his eyebrow. "A memory that's alive?" "Yes," she said. "You'll see." Lyra pushed open the door. Inside the circle, the chamber was circular, wide enough to hold a small concert hall. The walls were carved with spirals and symbols, but what caught Elias's attention was a floating sphere at the center of the room. It was made of thin black mist, but held a glowing core of silver light. Threads of shadow swirled around it like slow-moving smoke. Elias stepped toward it cautiously. "It's beautiful," he whispered. "It's deadly," she corrected. "The Varos made this sphere to hold voices, memories of everything that went wrong." Elias frowned. Why would they keep that? So future generations would not repeat their mistakes. She touched the lantern. "This is where we learn what the shadows really want." Elias hesitated. "Do we talk to it?" "Not talk." Lyra moved to the edge of the circle. "You listen." The lantern's dim light brightened. The sphere responded, its swirling shadows pulling inward, making the silver core shine brighter. The chamber vibrated. Then the sphere spoke, not with one voice, but with thousands, layered, echoing over each other. "We are the remnants. We are the lost fragments. We seek the heart." Elias's blood turned cold. "The heart? What heart?" The sphere continued, its whispers rising sharply. "The line has awakened. The chosen descends. The shadow mind will rise again." Elias stepped back. "This is talking about me." Lyra grabbed his arm. "We expected this. We knew the spiral reacted to you. There was only one explanation, but I hoped—" Before she could finish, the sphere flickered violently. The shadows around it thickened. The silver light sputtered. Then the sphere screamed, a horrifying chorus of voices exploding all at once. The entire chamber shook. Cracks split across the floor. Lyra shouted, "It's collapsing! The sphere is breaking! We need to get out, now!" But Elias couldn't move. The shadows from the sphere stretched across the floor like black claws, straight toward him. Lyra grabbed his wrist, trying to pull him away, but he felt something pulling in the opposite direction. His crystal heated up. It vibrated like a heartbeat. The sphere's voices grew louder. "The heart returns. The heart returns. The heart returns." Elias gasped. He understood. He understood it wasn't speaking about his heart. It meant the crystal heart of Varos, a legendary source of power believed to be lost forever. And somehow, it was reacting to him. Suddenly, the sphere exploded in a burst of shadow. The chamber went pitch dark. A cold voice, single, powerful, unmistakably sentient, whispered directly into Elias's ear. "Found you." The next morning, Elena, Marcus, and Leo met again at the old archives, all carrying notebooks, maps, cameras, and the heavy exhaustion of people who didn't sleep enough. The night before had been chaotic. Phone calls, emails, the museum asking questions, and reporters trying to understand why the city's most famous artifact had been replaced by a forged copy. But today felt different. Today they finally had a clear direction. On the table lay the old sketch from the missing historian, the one with hidden symbols, coded lines, and a mysterious phrase in the corner. Truth lives under the footprints of time. Leo traced the symbols with his finger. This isn't random. These markings form a pattern. Look, they match the structure of the old city tunnels. Marcus leaned closer. You mean the tunnels under the museum? Exactly, Leo nodded. But there's something more. This circle here, it's not a tunnel. It looks like a room that doesn't appear on any official map. Alana felt a cold wave run through her. A hidden room beneath the museum? Why would someone hype that? Marcus shrugged. To store something valuable, something people shouldn't see. Alana opened the leather notebook, the one that had belonged to the missing historian. She flipped through the pages again, reading lines she had already read many times. But now they made sense. Listen to this, she said. The stone is not only a record of the past, it is a key. When placed in the right place, at the right angle, it reveals what was buried to protect the truth. Leo whispered, a key to the hidden room. They exchanged looks. This was it. This was what the kidnappers were trying to find through the forged stone. A dangerous path. 2 hours later, they stood in the basement of the museum, flashlights in hand. The museum director had reluctantly given them access, but only after Alana promised to explain everything afterward. The basement smelled of dust, old metal, and forgotten history. Pipes ran along the walls. Shelves were filled with old artifacts waiting to be cataloged. Leo studied the sketch again. The entrance should be somewhere along this wall. Marcus inspected the stones. These looked newer than the rest. Someone repaired this section. Alana stepped closer and pressed her ear against the wall. Silence. Then a faint, hollow echo. Here, she said, there's something behind this wall. Marcus pushed one of the stones. Nothing. Leo tried pulling from the top. Nothing. Alana reached into her backpack and pulled out the real stone tablet. It says the stone is a key, she whispered. The stone had strange grooves on the side, almost like a puzzle piece waiting for its place. Try matching it to the carved lines, Leo suggested. Alana held the tablet against the wall. It didn't fit. She turned it. Still nothing. Marcus sighed. Maybe the historian was wrong, or maybe... Click. The stone suddenly slid into a small, invisible slot, and the wall trembled. Dust fell, old gears groaned, and then slowly, the wall shifted open, revealing a dark passage leading downward. Leo stepped back. Oh my God, this has been here for centuries. Alana swallowed. Then this is where the truth is. Marcus turned his flashlight, and probably where the people who kidnapped the historian wanted to go. They exchanged nervous glances. Then they stepped inside. The hidden room. The passage was narrow and cold. Their footsteps echoed. Walls were carved with symbols, some the same as on the stone, others older, almost impossible to read. After several minutes, the tunnel opened into a large chamber. At the center stood a stone pedestal. Above it hung an iron lantern that hadn't been lit in hundreds of years. Around the room were shelves covered in dust and scrolls. Alana approached the pedestal. There was a place shaped exactly for the stone tablet. She turned to the others. This is where it belongs. But as she raised the tablet, Marcus suddenly grabbed her arm. Elena, stop. She froze. What? Why? Marcus pointed to the floor. There were tripwires, some metal, some rope, some nearly invisible. Leo's eyes widened. Booby traps, old ones, but still deadly. Elena felt her heart race. So this place was protected, not just hidden. Marcus studied the wires. They're connected to a mechanism under the pedestal. If the stone is placed incorrectly, the entire room might collapse. Leo exhaled slowly. So, how do we know the correct way to place it? Elena opened the historian's notebook again. She turned to the last page, the one with the hand-drawn diagram. She realized something she hadn't before. This drawing, it shows light coming from the left. The stone must be placed at the angle where the sun enters the room. Marcus looked around. But we're underground. There's no sunlight. Leo pointed upward. Yes, there is. Look. A narrow slit in the ceiling let in a beam of sunlight thin as a thread, illuminating part of the pedestal. Elena's hands shook slightly as she lifted the stone again. Marcus held his breath. Leo whispered, "Careful." She placed the stone upright, angled towards the sunlight, exactly as the diagram showed. Silence. Then a soft hum vibrated through the room. The stone glowed faintly as light touched the carvings. The pedestal shifted, revealing a small metal box hidden inside. Leo's eyes widened. We did it. Marcus smiled. This is what they were trying to find. Elena reached for the box, but just as her fingers touched it, a voice echoed from the tunnel behind them. Don't move. They turned. 3 men stood in the passageway. Black clothes, masks. The same people who kidnapped the historian. Marcus stepped forward, angry. Where is he? Where is the historian? One of the men raised a gun. That depends on how fast you hand over the box.